What's going on, my zombie lovers? Welcome to Cinema Recap. Today, we're gonna go ahead and take a look at that 2020 South Korean zombie film, Alive. We have Jun-woo over here trying to save his life when a mysterious disease breaks out across South Korea, turning thousands of people into zombies. Classic. Confined to his apartment, his survival becomes a daily struggle as supplies and willpower run low. Spoilers ahead. We open up on Jun-woo, waking up to a new day. He finds a note on the table from his mom telling him that they left early and that there's no food in the house. There's also some money in an envelope for him to go and get some groceries. Instead of going anywhere, he goes to his room and plays some games online. And as he's about to start a game with his friends, they all start talking about something on TV that doesn't seem real. So he rushes to the living room and turns on the TV to check the news, but the broadcast gets interrupted. He gets alerted on the phone calling for a national emergency. Now, civilians have become ruthlessly violent and are attacking people. Then, a group of people in his building run past his apartment and their faint panic screams freak him out. What started as a riot is spreading through the city and reaching a national scale. Chaos is gripping the Korean city. He's looking outside his window as the faint sounds of anarchy fill the air. We have people running, screaming, sirens going off, cars trying to escape, helicopters flying over, people attacking and really viciously harming other people. He's remaining confused and horrified by what's going on. A noise from the other side of his front door causes him to go to it, and he looks through that peephole, but finds nobody there. So he opens the door slightly to inspect further and freaks out when a guy suddenly barges in and closes the door behind him. Well, Jun's like, "Who are you, bud?" And the guy's apologizing for barging in and reminds him that they've met before. He's his next door neighbor. But Jun doesn't seem to care and tells him to get out. Well, the guy asks him to reconsider and hear him out. But Jun's like, "Leave." So the man asks if he can use his toilet first, to which he reluctantly agrees.
감염된 사람은 어느 시점에서
So now Jun watches the news and is learning that cannibalistic behavior is being reported in those who are infected. So he walks over to the kitchen and grabs a knife as that man gets out of the bathroom. Jun charges at him with that knife, threatens him. Although the man's trying to explain that he's fine, the knife remains steady in Jun's hand.
아니야.
He's begging to stay longer, but then his eyes become all bloody red. You know what that means. He goes to attack Jun, but he manages to kick him out of his home, narrowly avoiding infection. He's watching through the peephole as that man eats another person, the blood seeping into his apartment. Well, after that whacked out experience, Jun's propping that fridge up against the door and sits down on the floor. He keeps trying to call his mom but is unsuccessful until 4 messages from her come through. His mom's telling him they're fine but are unable to get home, because of the situation outside. She tells him to do what the people on TV are saying and just remain safe. He writes a post-it note on a family picture with the words, "I must survive," to remind him of what he's fighting for. With little food in the house, he goes to ration it, but quickly realizes how little that food is. Now he's feeling exhausted. He goes to sleep. So he wakes up. Maybe it's a bad dream. He goes to watch the news. It hasn't changed. He attempts to phone his mother again, but nothing's going through. He goes online and sees people posting pics of themselves at their respective locations hoping for a rescue, so he does the same. Now, hoping to find some signal and see what's going on beyond the confines of his apartment, Jun straps his phone to a drone and sends it out. He does get a signal, but just as that call goes through, his battery dies. So defeated, he goes inside to play games and his computer gets disconnected too. So, screw it, he goes to sleep again. Now, while sleeping, a commotion wakes him up. Heads to the window to check it out and is nearly taken out by a rogue bullet. He looks out and sees it's a cop trying to take out zombies, but then running out of bullets. She's trying to reload before the zombies get her. She manages to put a bullet in the gun just in time to take out one zombie, but the others collectively jump on her and take her down. Our boy's watching them drag her off to a swarm of zombies and tries to save her by shouting out, but is unsuccessful as she's still getting dragged away, leaving her gun behind. He then hears the fridge move behind him, which means someone or something is trying to get in. Well, he goes to see what's happening only to find a zombie trying to get through. He's holding him back as long as possible, but knows there's only one option. He runs to the balcony and climbs over, and as that zombie runs up to him, he ducks, making that zombie fall out the balcony. Well, June holds for his dear life and climbs back up after seeing the woman who he attempted to save earlier is now one of them. So he attempts to clean up the mess and secure the door again. Struggling to stay positive, he records a video message reminding himself of his father's last words to him that he needs to survive. He openly questions how long he can sustain himself, considering his lack of supplies and the reality on the ground. Well, it's day 7 now, and Junwoo's struggling. He's drinking his father's alcohol, while the TV in the background talks about the virus infecting millions, saying that it's only transferred through blood from a bite or a stab wound. The zombies don't have heightened senses, and some even remember who they were before the disease, repeating slight habits they used to do in their daily lives. And a commercial with a man eating food interrupts the broadcast, and it's been a while since June enjoyed a good meal. He goes to the cupboard and finds the same noodles from the commercial, with a note attached that says it's his last supper. Well, he eats it, enjoying every bite. He accidentally spills his water, so he goes to the kitchen tap to get some, but nothing comes out. He inspects the other taps and realizes that the water is completely shut off. So he heads back and drinks that spilt water with no other option left. The will to live is decreasing day by day. It's day 10, and he's truly struggling, with almost no food or water left and no reason for hope. He records a new video message. He refuses to leave his home and turn into a monster, stating that he'd rather starve to death. He then thinks of his family, how his mother never really watched TV all that much. She listened to the radio instead. It's day 15 now, and he's trying to enjoy himself by listening to music, drinking, and occasionally succumbing to sadness and anger. Then his parents open the door. His father and sister say hi before his mother walks in and asks if he ate. Well, he hugs her tightly, but it's clear that he's hallucinating, starved and dehydrated. Madness is in the early stages. Overcome with sadness now, he can't hold himself together any longer. He's at the end of his rope. He falls asleep for a moment and is woken by the sound of messages, so he opens the phone and sees a voice message. The message is shaky, so he goes and reaches out on the balcony to hear it, and it quickly turns into a tragedy as he hears his parents being attacked by the zombies and are likely gone. So he's angry. He leaves his apartment, killing a zombie right outside his front door. He turns the corner and sees Sang Chul from earlier. A group of zombies approach and his old neighbor grabs his leg. He clearly made a mistake going outside, and he knows that, so he runs. But they're everywhere. He's trying to get into the elevator, and there's zombies there too. Thankfully, they topple the others over. So he's hiding while they're roaming the halls, searching for him, and navigates through a sea of zombies, nearly discovered by a zombie without eyes. They attempt to get into his apartment, and he's holding on for dear life. So now day 20. The floor shakes as explosions go off. Junwoo looks out the window and sees the bombing across Seoul, making the power go off. So he records another video, his final one, where he's gonna take his own life. This is too much to handle, and so he steps on that stool and attempts to hang himself, but stops when he sees a pointer laser moving around the room. He struggles to escape but manages eventually, and he looks across the way and sees a girl, a normal human girl. He waves, happy to see someone who's not looking to kill him. She tells him 7 o'clock, before telling him to hush as she closes that window. He does the same, and with a new sense of hope, he removes the rope around his neck. So across the way, Kim Yoo-bin is crafting weapons to defend herself. She gives up her day's rationing water to her plant before going to sleep. Junwoo wakes up in a panic. He's late. He rushes to the window and sees nobody there. He doesn't know Yoo-bin's watching from across the way. She makes her presence known and points to her watch. He apologizes for being late and uses his phone to tell her his name, and she does the same thing with her tablet. After making a fool of himself, Yu-bin's pulled away from their conversation as a zombie tries to get into her home. She tells him at 7 o'clock again, and he agrees. She walks away from the window after closing it and goes to the door with her axe in hand. She approaches the zombie that's fallen victim to her trap and finishes the job. The rain falls that night, and both survivors collect the rainwater to drink. June anxiously waiting for 7 to come. But she comes early, and he gets up to talk to her, but starts to experience stomach pains. Well, he's starving, and she sees him and asks if he's hungry, to which he nods his head. So she walks off and comes back with a baseball attached to a rope, and she throws it across, but it doesn't make it further than halfway. So he uses his drone to take a rope across the apartment complex. And as the drone heads back, Yu-bin delivers a food package using a zip line. Well, he immediately starts eating, but quickly notices something. He tells her to look down, and when she does, she sees a zombie holding the baseball. The zombie pulls at it lightly, and she goes to cut it free, but then he pulls violently, pulling the table forward and knocking her down. So now the zombie's scaling the building. Well, she's out cold. June tries to help her out. At first, he's chucking glass bottles as far as he can, but they're having little effect on him. So then he gets the drone thinking that he can fly it straight into the zombie. But then a group of zombies try to break into his apartment. Now the zombie scaling the building to Yu's apartment grabs and destroys the drone. Luckily, she wakes up in time and kills it. That night, June takes a stock of his supplies and realizes that he needs to make his way outside to find the means to survive. He suits up, ventures out, weary of what's lurking in the dark, and he finds his old neighbor and takes his keys. Inside his home, he finds a body on the bed, but it's unresponsive. He looks around and finds a few food items. And on the way out, he goes into the room where the body lies and finds a jar of Nutella, a jacket, and some walkie-talkies. Curiosity gets the better of him, and he pulls the covers off the body to reveal a woman. And a zombie comes out of nowhere attacking him. He uses the body as a shield before getting up and running for his life. He escapes and gets back to his apartment. So back at the apartment, he sends over one of the walkie-talkies, a beer, and some Nutella for Yu-bin. And she thanks him for the food, and the two talk for a bit before he thanks her for saving his life. She says she didn't. He wanted to live, and that's why he's still alive. She says all this while looking at a noose of her own, which she tried to use at one point. Now they're bonding over the walkies, cooking together, chatting the nights and days away. They talk about her fear of heights, but then the conversation ends when they think it's raining. They go to the windows to collect some rainwater, but see no rain, only zombies making their way into the complex. So they both get to the floor as they run past their apartments. Yu accidentally makes a noise, causing the zombies to come for her. They get to her door and June asks her what her unit number is. She tells him, and he phones her neighbors, causing the zombies to move away from her apartment. So Yu drops to the floor, thankful to have survived. Now the two decide they need to get out, that they must escape their dangerous location and head to the 8th floor where there's nobody, not even zombies.
8층밖에 없어.
She prepares to leave her apartment out the window, but her fear of heights be damned. She asked him if they really think they'll survive, and he tells her that he hopes so. So she jumps out, and he gets to the ground where she runs across the courtyard, shoving zombies aside, nailing a few with her axe and coming close to get taken out by the zombies, while June watches in amazement. And just when it seems like she's doomed, he helps her fend off the attackers. While they're fully in this fight together, they make their way towards the elevator, and as the doors to the elevator close, zombies are breaking through the glass. Finally, they reach the 8th floor. At first, it truly seems empty, but after trying to get through a few doors, a zombie appears, and then a bunch of them appear. They try to find an open apartment, but can't. Junwoo holds them off, but is eventually in their grasp. She's pulled into an apartment before a smoke bomb is thrown, and June's told to hurry in too. Now the man tells him he's impressed that they've survived, as he thought he was the only one. He gives them some water, but she watches the whole time, not totally trusting him. He tells them to drink, they must be thirsty. It's only when he takes a sip that Junwoo follows his lead, and then convinces Yu to do the same.
배고프지? 뭐 좀 줄까?
He gives him food as well, and he tells him that there's enough food to last them till the rescue. which is music to their ears. Well, he's surprised that they didn't know. The man gets out a cigarette and she asks him how he hid all this time. He tells her it was easy when you're old. She notices some baby stuff and asks if he has a kid, but he says no. And June suddenly passes out. She tries to wake him up as the man cable ties him, but now she's fallen asleep. The man drags her away into a room, clearly made for a baby. He leaves her in the room, locking it from the outside. He loosens a rope on the outside, and Yu-bin sees a woman lying on the floor. It's his wife, who's now a zombie. He lets go of the rope, allowing her to attack Yu-bin. He tells her his wife is starving. And June's now awake, has a gun pointed at the man. He calls out for Yu-bin, but she's preoccupied trying to not get eaten. And he attempts to reason with this guy, but there's no negotiating here. He lets go of the rope and June runs and grabs it. The man grabs a knife and tells Junwoo to leave the girl and go. Junwoo lets go of the rope, frantically trying to get to the room, but the man shoves him out the way as the noise on the other side fades away. He grabs his keys and opens the door. She guides his wife to him, and she eats his flesh instead. Yu-bin ends them both. The noise of the gunshot alerting all the other zombies of their location. And she suggests that they take their own lives, rather die a human than become a monster. He doesn't want to do it, but eventually says okay. He's unable to pull that trigger. But then, the sound of a chopper interrupts him. It's flying away from him. They run to that roof, making their way through the zombies with a new sense of purpose. Junwoo saves Yu-bin and tells her to get the choppers to come to him. He'll meet up with her. He gets to the roof and tries to secure the door, and she tells him there aren't any choppers. He screams out for help, and she joins in as the zombies break through. He shoots a few zombies until running out of ammo. As all hope seems lost, a helicopter comes out of nowhere, killing the remaining zombies and taking them to safety. And now the two are taken far from the apartment building over a city filled with zombies. They look at one another, relieved. They survived against all odds. Thanks so much for sticking to the end. This was our recap of Alive, released back in 2020 by Lot Entertainment. It starred Yoo Ah-in, Park Shin-hye, and Lee Hyun-wook. So, do you think you'd survive a zombie apocalypse? Let us know with that hashtag Cinema Recap in the comments. Till next time.